Alrighty, so welcome to the next installment in my Mega Marklin review. And so this is going to be on the fourth locomotive that I acquired, which we can see came in a starter set. Now, this locomotive's got some very interesting features and also a very nice design, but is also a very good insight, one of the best insights I've got into a way that not only marketing can be misleading, but companies, even ones like Marklin, who are meant to be the top of model railways, still take shortcuts when making their models. And sometimes these may or may not reduce the functionality of the model. So now let's have a look at this very, very German train, and at first, very alien to me. When we're talking about a 242 tank engine here. And for someone who's used to British trains, for like Thomas the Tank Engine, all really sort of small and neat, this was something very alien to me at the beginning. So now let's have a look. Alrighty, so this is the engine from the 29532 starter set. And as you can see, it's got a lot more detailing than, say, the smaller tank engine that I reviewed before, and even the express engine. And so we can see that it's got very fine sort of wiry details, even got a small whistle attached on there. Very nice detailing on the entire body of the model. And look at this, we've even got plastic filling the windows of the cab, making it a bit more realistic than your open air cabs. You've got a very interesting set of axles, which are very fun to watch as they go along. And we've got this interesting funnel, which is set quite actually far back from the front of the boiler, which I also thought was a bit weird because we've got this little cylinder thing here. We've got headlights, which are truly sort of set forward on the running plate here. And then we've also got reversing lights at the back. Now these couplings are funny, but I'll get to those in a minute. What is interesting to note about this is that this is still a hobby starter set. However, if we compare, the details on this locomotive to the ones on the fire train, they're very, very different. So it really makes you wonder what can Marklin class as hobby and what can they not class as hobby? Because, this is not what I call a hobby locomotive. I mean, drop this once, knock it over, and you're going to lose quite a decent amount of detailing. Whereas the other one, you might get a few scratches and bumps, but overall play value won't be just damaged. Now let's look at the feet. As is most stock locomotives that Marklin produces these days, we've got on-off on this BR86. And we've got switches with direction of travel also, so we can see that the lights have come on the back now too. Now this engine has also got that strange triangle symbol again, which I've told you about, which I still don't know what it is. But it's got something else. Now look at these. Look at these couplings. They don't look quite normal, do they? And that's because, well, they're not. Look at this. Ready? 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 That's right. These are actually automatic couplings. That means with a press of the button, if we go here, you can see it there. On, off. I can uncouple the train. Which, in some ways, wow, that's really cool. I can uncouple a train. But in actual fact, is not that amazing. Because, as I'll tell you in a minute, it's not quite what you're looking for often when you're uncoupling trains. But it's still a very fun play feature, especially for younger children getting into their first starter set, or even younger adults getting into their first starter set. And so they're really the features of this. We've got a typical digital decoder, and a 5-pole standard Marklin motor. So he runs a bit like this, or she, depending on what you want to do. So, it's reasonably loud, but still reasonably smooth at low speeds, and that's just my track being dodgy, so just ignore that. Alrighty. Now I've told you about what this thing looks like and its features, but as always, let's do the most fun part. Alright, first things first. These couplings, sorry, but they don't... No, they do work. They do work. I can't say they don't work. On most carriages, they work reasonably well. On the close coupling carriages, which I'll speak to, as you can see, these different kind of couplings here, as opposed to, say, Thomas's couplings, they don't work as well, but they still do the job. However, really, if you think about it, what's the thing you're usually doing when you're trying to make your trains. That's right, uncouple individual trucks from each other. So this is sort of helpful, but often I just don't even worry about this gimmick, and I really don't think that for an engine like this, it should add on to the price, and it would probably just be as good without it there. Now, a second interesting feature about this train is that it's advertised to have 4 driving axles, and which, as you saw in the video before, it actually does drive with 4 axles. However, there's always a however, isn't there? If I just bring the locomotive over to this section of track over here, we can see that maybe this isn't actually the case. So here we go. We line it up like this, and you can sort of see it in the shot. Now, if you look really closely, like I do to things, which I probably shouldn't, it's sort of hard to show on the camera, but these wheels don't look quite the same as these wheels, because they're not. If we lift this engine up, we can see, look at the wheels on the top. If this actually focuses on what I want to focus on, thank you. No, I don't want to focus on the railway line, I want to focus on the engine, you stupid. Where? Hang on, there. We can see that these are silver with that tiny speck of grey, and that's a way of telling if an engine's been run before. If you buy it second hand, the grey stuff rubs off and goes silver and then gets replaced with more carbon. And then we can see that, there you go, that one's very silver, and these 2 wheels right here are grey. Then we've got traction tyres and then silver wheels again. Now, why would these 2 be grey? And here you go, you can sort of see it here. They're not quite the same size. Exactly. That's exactly it. They're not. These 2 middle wheels actually don't touch the rails. They hang slightly just above it, suspended above the rails. Now, first you're going to be going, oh my god, like this is a rip-off. I paid for 4 powered axles, not 2. And that's what I thought at first, until I realised, hang on, this is a big locomotive. How is it supposed to get around corners? If you think about it, that's quite a decent wheelbase to be getting around a corner. Now, I mean, you do get the trucks and stuff doing that, but they've only got 1 wheel there and 1 wheel there. And if they had these 2 in the middle, I very doubt that this engine will be able to go any corners at all, especially not the corners which the starter sets come with, which are very tight. So I can see why Marklin does this. However, I think it would have been probably slightly more, how do you say it, more appropriate, possibly, for an engine like this. Although it is a beginner loco, if it is resold in a more expensive set, they should redesign it so it has a moving frame, like many of the other larger passenger engines do, because they do have big frames that they can't lift the wheels off the middle because they've only got 1 or 2 of them. So I think in a starter set you can get away with that, but if this engine was getting sold in, like, you know, a $700 pack with 2 freight cars that are special, then I think they definitely have to fix that up, because there's a very big difference between 2 driving axles and 4. Now, the last thing, something I don't think I can show you, but I'm not sure what it actually is, but this locomotive, often when it's going along the tracks, it runs fine for a while at reasonable middle to low speeds. However, often if it's running with another locomotive, it'll just short circuit the whole layout. I don't really know why, and what happens is everything goes off, but it comes instantly back on again. So the trains all stop and then they'll start again. It's a bit strange, I don't know what it is. If anyone has any ideas, I think it's something to do with the 5-pole motors, because I find that a little red train over there does it sometimes too, especially running at the lower speeds with another engine. By itself, it's fine. So I'm wondering if it's something to do with, you know, the load on the mobile station doesn't maybe like these 5-pole motors running for long periods of time with other ones, because they do, or maybe when they heat up the wires expand or something, I don't know. That's just a point of interest there about Marklin's 5-pole motors, which they still continue to put into locomotives. Alrighty, now to the... Okay, so would I recommend this locomotive? Well, I would recommend the starter set, which came with this locomotive, a mobile station, and then, here, because I'm being so special, I'll show you which freight cars it came with. This green one here with the sliding doors, which I can, there you go, sliding. This box car here, this oil tanker, And if I can find it, here we go. There you go. And this freight wagon here. So, with the 5 freight cars, it's pretty good. However, if I was going to buy this engine by myself, would I buy it? Probably not. I'd rather either a smaller tank engine myself, and if I did want to buy it, I'd want to buy it with more sound features, or I'd get a big express engine, or even like a industrial kind of tender engine that's designed to pull freight. So although it's a very nice looking locomotive, and in Marklin Who, as you'll see, his name will be Delta, and also in my new railway series, which is coming up this year, but I must say, with those few little things that are just a bit strange, it's just another one of those little Marklin-isms. Like, it's a really nice railway, but once you start getting into it, once you start really playing with, these train engines, starting to test them to limits, you find that even the best can succumb to this sort of crafty idea of taking shortcuts, such as the wheels, and also that sometimes there are just some things which can't go together. It gets me wondering, what happens to the day when I can't run my locomotives together because they annoy each other too much? And as I've explained, there's problems with points and stuff already. What happens when I can't reach over if it derails and stops because my layout takes an entire room? Or there's grass in the way, or it's in a tunnel, or there's catenary in the way. And that's what I really want to ask Marklin through these reviews. What happens when people have professional railway set up and something goes wrong? Something which shouldn't go wrong, but does go wrong. What do you do then? How do you deal with that, and how do you stop it from occurring? Alrighty, now that was a little bit depressing and strange, wasn't it? Okay, so now I'm going to move on to the next locomotives I received. Well, they were actually Thomas and Percy. But, as I said, I've already reviewed those, so we're going to skip right along to Charlie over here. Yes, his nickname is Charlie, which is a locomotive behind that Haribo locomotive that you can see there, and in front of Puff. And it also is another one of Marklin's, and probably out of all the engines I've got, biggest failures actually. And it's got 2 really obvious problems with it that really should be fixed, and I hope that Marklin was producing that model, and they did for a time. They actually fixed up one of the problems, until I just saw it come back on the market again, and I was like, Marklin, what are you doing? Do not sell that locomotive, it does not work. But how badly does it not work? Well, you have to stay tuned to find out. That's all for now from TrainzXtreme.